Greetings and felicitations.
Hip, hip, hurrah, tally-ho.
Hey, my little Georgia Peach.
Hey, hey, Puddin'.
Let's talk about Star Trek Enterprise, episode entitled Cold Front. This episode was directed by Robert Duncan McNeill, written by Stephen Beck and Tim Finch. It was originally aired on November 28th, 2001.
Archer is confronted by a member of his crew who claims to be from 900 years in the future and is here to capture a Suliban operative who has boarded the Enterprise.
Okay, another episode. Previously, we had an episode by Star Trek alumni LeVar Burton. Now, Robert Duncan McNeill.
And that's so cool.
It really is.
And we know that Robbie McNeill has directed before, so yeah, it's great that he got to do this one.
This one actually had very good reviews as far as the media. I want to read this. This was taken from Entertainment Weekly. They said, "Finally, Enterprise did it. The writers of this week's episode, Stephen Beck and Tom Finch, provided the season's first truly compelling episode. Until now, each show has been wrapped up in an agreeable but ho-hum way. But Cold Front was more complicated, with an ending that was both intriguing and unsettling." That's awesome. Robert Duncan McNeill hit a home run with this as far as critics were concerned. I totally disagree that this is the only one that didn't have a ho-hum ending, but it was very different because it was going to springboard off of what was brought up in the premiere episode, and we're going to know that this whole time travel thing is going to be continuously a thread that follows the Enterprise series.
Yeah, so this one was an action episode. The thing is, it didn't have a pat ending. I mean,
did not.
This was really just a setup episode. Like it wasn't really a story in itself.
You're right.
So it's amazing that the critics liked it.
I'm going to say first time watching it, I didn't like it because of that. I was like, man, I can't figure this show out. What is this? What are we doing with this? This is too far-fetched. In the rewatch, though, when I saw how the connective tissue pulled the series together, I think it's fantastic. But my initial view of it, I was not happy because of the open-endedness.
That's exactly how I felt. Because, at first you're going, what is this? But now that we know what's going to happen on Enterprise, so watching this episode, it's good to go back and see the beginning of all the other temporal Cold War stuff that's going to happen later.
Yes. And also, we've been trained that Enterprise was going to be different than, let's say, Deep Space Nine. Enterprise to this point was fairly a individual episode type show, like classic Star Trek. Yes, you had to watch them in order to understand the character developments, but overall, every episode had a beginning, middle, and end. This one did not.
So they took a chance, but I do remember reading back when it first came on that the producers intended to have a certain story, which and of course it was set up in the pilot episode.
Yes,
something about a temporal Cold War, but they wouldn't really. Not every episode would be about it, but they would touch on it.
Sometimes it's exactly what they did. Yes.
Okay, so we got to see crewman Daniels.
Yes,
and so this mysterious character from the future, and we find out he's been a member of the Enterprise, but they didn't know who he was until this episode.
And crewman Daniels was in another Star Trek movie, Galaxy Quest.
Oh, really?
He was a background character, believe it or not.
That's cool, because he probably is an intergalactic traveler, so he can go from Star Trek to Galaxy Quest.
Good point. This could be the connection that we are looking for to say, why is Galaxy Quest an official Star Trek movie?
Of course.
It's Daniels. He's the connective tissue.
So we also find out that Daniels has a roommate. So it is pretty amazing that he kept, like the device that he showed Archer. Okay, so his roommate didn't know anything about that.
Yes.
Or the fact that Daniels was from the future. And they never showed his roommate,
But this
So,
is I'm going to say it's the second time we've ever seen roommates in Star Trek. I think Star Trek 6 was the first time, if I'm not mistaken.
Where we find out that people have to share quarters.
Have bunks?
Yeah.
Yes. Again, we're always looking for how does this connect to the rest of the Star Trek universe. It totally makes sense that nearly everyone on the ship is going to have a roommate, since the ship is so much smaller than the original Enterprise.
Yes. But we found out on later things too, like Next Gen and Lower Decks, that they had roommates too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got the Suliban here, and this is supposed to be the same Suliban that was in the pilot, but this is the first time that we heard his name.
That's right.
His name is Silic. And the thing is that, like, they tried to make it out like Silic is the enemy, but he did keep the ship from being blown up.
There's a lot of layers to this character.
Yes.
We're seeing a different side to him now than what we've been seeing of him previously.
But we still don't know, like, whose side he's on. I think he's protecting the timeline like Daniels, and so whatever the timeline is, whether it's for or against the Enterprise, well, he just wants to preserve his version of the timeline.
Absolutely.
And also the timeline guy, the shadow guy, is seen in this episode, and we still don't know who he is.
He's shadowed in mystery. But what I found truly fascinating was this one segment. I mean, anything with Vulcans, we love learning more about. T'Pol made a reference that Vulcans disbelieved in time travel based on the Vulcan Science Directorate's conclusions.
Yeah, which we keep hearing her say all through the series, and we know it's bumpkus. In the Star Trek universe, there is so much time travel.
I was shocked to hear that Vulcans just dismissed it.
Well, I know. To them, it must be logical, and they're saying that they have never seen any scientific proof of it. But yeah, it is one of those strange things. Like of all the things that the writers had to throw in about Vulcans, why did it have to be that? When we know in Star Trek that time travel is pretty prevalent, even in the 23rd century on the original Star Trek.
And I was just wondering, like, what evidence would the Vulcan Science Directorates have to say time travel is impossible? Like, for our point of view, Stephen Hawking said time travel is impossible, and we believe it because the scientists of our time just say it can't happen. But I wonder why they made such a strong stance the Vulcans did. They never expanded upon it later on, did they?
No, since the Vulcans were proven wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just another thing.
That's the type of thing. Yeah. The Vulcans are proven wrong.
Yeah.
Did anybody call them out saying, hey,
you were wrong.
Yeah.
Na.
Where's your Vulcan logic now?
But the Vulcans were still in this stage of looking down on humans and always
Very
thinking
much so.
Vulcans
Yes.
always think they're right, you know,
Yes.
and so it was just another thing for T'Pol to argue about.
Also got another first appearance in this episode. First time we see movie night. And we know this is going to be a standard going forward.
Yeah, and it's something that I like that they have to sort of tie it into our time. They're watching movies that are classics to us.
Very similar, I think, of the Tom Paris watching old TV shows.
Yeah, you think Robert Duncan McNeil threw that in just because, you know, it was a thing on Voyager, why not make it a thing on Enterprise?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Because he was directing it. I don't know. Could he have had some influence? Who's to say? But it does show that the ship needed to wind down sometimes, and they needed to do something collectively together.
And I think it had been mentioned by the fans before Voyager, you know, like, do movies still exist in Star Trek's time? So they finally answered the question, you know, people do still watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
So Archer was kind of shaky in this episode at first, like not knowing who to believe.
This is one of those things that I was actually wondering about because, I mean, the owner of my company, I think he has like something like 500 employees, and he knows almost everyone by name.
Really?
How many people? Yeah, because for each property he owns, he knows just
but
different.
He knows all their names. Okay.
He knows the bulk of us by names because I hear him call us out by name. But I'm thinking, okay, Archer has how many people on the ship?
78.
Yeah, less than 100, and he's shocked at this crewman. He doesn't know his name. He just like, who are you? It was one of those things like, okay, that's kind of weird. What'd you think?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe that is the way it is on Navy ships. I don't know.
I mean, is he so disconnected to?
That's what it seems like. But I guess he's too busy, and he may have been taught as a captain or trained, not to fraternize too much with the crew.
With the lower decks.
Right. We do know that the captain he does have to keep a certain social distance.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be that, or he just hasn't had time yet. It's still the first season. I mean, maybe he intends to meet everybody in time, but they keep having an adventure every week, you know?
Yeah.
But he does start to, I think he does start to believe Daniels more later on.
Mm-hmm. It's just too much for him to process at this point.
Yeah, it's something new for him. And maybe what DePaul said about, the Vulcans not believing in time travel, it's kind of, it does kind of put a doubt in everyone's mind, and even Archer, like, well, Vulcans might be right, but then who is this guy if there's no such thing as time travel, if it's not possible?
Yeah, good point. So when we look at this episode, we ask ourselves, what do we get out of it, especially how does it link to the whole tapestry of Star Trek? Is there anything here that we could say that goes against what we already know with the other series?
I can't think of anything right now.
I didn't see anything.
I think it fills in more gaps. And you notice, so Daniel said he's from 900 years in the future, which would put him in the 31st century. And on Discovery, they're in the 32nd century now in the third season.
Okay.
So that's what, so Discovery made it intentionally farther in the future than Star Trek has ever been. So
yes.
this is the one that set the, the century for Discovery to go past.
Good point. Good. I never thought about it like that. With regards to the series, this is the one that is the true springboard for the temporal Cold War.
Right. So, and we still don't know anything about it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They just brought up a few more things.
Yeah.
So it's still, this episode again, it's just a setup.
It totally did. The ending has us wanting more, which is a very good thing, actually.
Yes. So as an episode in this rewatch, I liked it.
Absolutely. I give it a thumbs up.
Yep. Thumbs up.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.